everyone to the first meeting of 2021 for the Board of Commissioners, Frankfurt Board of Commissioners. I'd like to welcome you, and before we begin, I'll lay out a couple of ground rules as we'll begin this new session. We're going to follow the Roberts Rules of Order, and I'd like to ask everyone to direct the questions or debate to the chairman as we speak, and we're going to stick to the subjects at hand. This is a special meeting, and we'll stick to the agenda items at hand. Discussion items will be for discussion only, and only action items can be voted on. I want to welcome everyone. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Waldridge.
Present.
Commissioner Thompson.
Present.
Commissioner May.
Present.
Commissioner Unger.
Present.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Present. Okay. Do we have any citizens' comments?
No, sir, we did not.
Okay. We have a guest tonight, Melanie Bellenhoughton from the Josephine Sculpture Parks and Frank Arts with an update. Go ahead, Melanie.
Thank you, guys. We're getting into this so quick. I'm excited, and I just wanted to thank you all for your time and also for your willingness to serve on the commission on behalf of Josephine Sculpture Park and Frank Arts. We've partnered with the city on many public art projects throughout the years, and I look forward to working with each of you moving forward on all these exciting projects we have going on. So that I don't forget to say it, you guys are welcome to email or call me anytime, and you can get my information. My email will be on the presentation I'm about to give you, but if you want my phone number or anything like that, Rebecca, any of these folks can give you my number, or email me through the sculpture park. And if you have, I'm going to try to cover a lot in this presentation, so if you have any questions about what I'm kind of zipping through, feel free to contact me again at any time for more information. So, Bobby, am I good to go ahead and do the screen share?
Yes, ma'am. You're an organizer. You're good.
Okay, great. So I've put together a presentation for you guys to kind of really quickly and as concisely as I could give you a little bit of background on what we've done up to this point as Frank Arts, and then kind of what our plans are for this year and kind of moving forward. And then hopefully, if you have any questions, we'll have time for that, and you can ask me any questions. Some of you are probably familiar with what some of the things I'm going to talk about. But let me get this open for you. Okay, can you guys all see that? Yep, okay, good. So just to clarify somewhat, the Franklin County Arts Council was put together by a group of arts professionals and citizens with a city advisor. Rebecca Hall remains our city advisor. And we're sort of an ad hoc group of people that essentially is organized under Josephine Sculpture Park. So Frank Arts is not a separate 501c3 or in any way connected like a city group or committee or anything like that. We really operate under Josephine Sculpture Park. And within that, then we have participated and collaborated with the city and Downtown Frankfurt Inc. and Frankfurt Tourism on several different projects that, are all kind of connected, and it sometimes feels a little like everything's kind of intertwined, and in some ways it is, but I'm going to try to weed it out for you. So I'm going to go through the Frankfurt Public Art Tour, our goal of identifying Frankfurt as the public art capital of Kentucky, and some of the arts downtown projects that we've done and what we hope to do this year and kind of moving into the future. And again, this is a partnership with support from the city and Frankfurt Tourism, as well as a significant amount of financial support from Richard Rosen, who is our citizen advisor. Okay, so timeline. In 2009, I moved back to Kentucky in 2008 to open Josephine Sculpture Park. So we opened in 2009. At that time, we were a 20-acre park. We're free and open daily, exhibiting contemporary sculpture and murals. As many of you know, we've now expanded to 30 acres That happened in 2018, but we opened as a 20-acre park. In 2013, the Frankfurt Public Art Tour was established. That identified 20 existing public art sites, which include historical, architectural, and sculptural monuments and everything kind of in between. That was in conjunction, that was a collaboration with Joanna Hay Productions, Frankfurt Tourism, and Kentucky State University did the original identification of 20 existing sites. In 2015, Josephine Sculpture Park started our Art in Public Places program and expanded the JSP exhibition to include downtown sites. Specifically, Riverview Park was our first partnership with the city directly. And that was in an effort to support our local businesses who have, for years supported the park and everything that we've done. Kind of trying to connect the sculpture park with downtown and the county and the city through the arts. In 2018, we established a unified goal across many sectors to identify Frankfurt as the public art capital of Kentucky. In 2019, Arts Downtown was established. And again, this was primarily sponsored by Richard Rosen with other support, additional support from Express Credit Union and several local downtown businesses also. Through that support, we commissioned 3 murals and 6 sculptures were also installed downtown. Those are all currently still on exhibition. 2020, was a surprisingly big year for Frank Arts and the Sculpture Park and Arts Downtown. We upgraded and transitioned the original website that was connected to the Frankfurt Public Art Tour over to Frankfurt Tourism website. And if you haven't checked out their new website, please do. But also specifically visit frankfurt.com/art will take you to the Frankfurt Public Art Tour. And it identifies all of those sites and locations that were part of the original 2013 plan with the expanded Arts Downtown pieces. So the newer murals, the newer sculptures, and all of that. And it's super user friendly. It's great. Because of the pandemic, a lot of the promotion that would have happened through Frankfurt Tourism, was a challenge, quite frankly, because a lot of the places, weren't open or had very limited options for what they could do. And I've spoken with Robin about this at Tourism, and she very heavily promoted our Arts Downtown program because it was something that was outdoors, it was safe for people, it was very accessible. She created a new rack card and also distributed that, really heavily in addition to social media and the new website. We also commissioned 4 more murals that were installed in 2020. And we got a sculpture by a world-renowned artist named Chakaya Booker, which is installed at West Banco and is now part of our Arts Downtown program. And we also partnered with the city on the Our Town grant, which we wrote that grant, it feels like years ago, that was funded by the National Endowment for the Arts in support of the development of a strategic plan for the arts in our community, which we're really excited about moving forward with that. I'm going to move these boxes so I can see what I'm reading here. Okay, so super excited about this year coming up. We hope to be able to implement some of the suggestions that will be identified in the Arts Master Plan across all sectors. And I think Rebecca can correct me on this, but I think you'll be getting more information. They'll be wrapping that master plan up within the next month or so, and we'll all be getting the presentation of that master plan. We are hoping to partner with the city on a separate NEA grant to support the commission of a public sculpture to be purchased by the city for the corner of Bridge Street and 2nd Street. That grant was submitted in 2020 and we're awaiting award notification. So hopefully that can move forward this year. We would also plan to partner with the city and the Frankfurt Focus on Race Relations group to commission a sculpture to be placed at the Singing Bridge that acknowledges the significant history of that location as a lynching site. And this would be in conjunction with the historical marker to be placed there by the Equal Justice Initiative. There is currently a sculpture there now. That's the stainless steel piece by Dave Caudill, and that is scheduled to rotate out in October. So we're hoping that we can commission the new piece to go there that will be more specific to that site in October, hopefully. We will conduct a national call to get new sculptures to replace the existing sculptures on exhibition that are in downtown and at Riverview Park. That would be also in October. And we would like to conduct a national call for one new mural that I'll call like medium-sized mural, and approximately 10 to 20 mini murals to be painted in 2021. We have the funding to do that from Mr. Rosen. That would complete his original pledge that was, to initiate this program. And we hope that partnering with the city on this next NEA grant will be able to provide continued sustainable funding to be able to, expand these initiatives and keep building on them into 2022 and beyond. And Rebecca Hall, as I said, I've mentioned her several times. She's our city advisor. We work really closely on those grants. And Andy Seth, who is from Sustainable Strategies, he's been a tremendous asset to us in terms of finding those grants that we're eligible for and getting them to the right people in Washington who can make sure that the funding happens. Okay, let's see, I'm trying to move ahead here. And I'm not for some reason. Well, we're gonna try it this way. Okay, my button quit working. So here is a map. This is just to show you, I pulled this off of the Frankfurt Public Art Tour website, just to show you all of the locations of places identified on the Frankfurt Public Art Tour right now. There are several out in the county as well, but that made the map so squishy, it was, not really legible. So I really wanted you to be able to see the main stuff in the city that exists now. Each of the murals and sculptures has a Frankfurt Public Art Tour sign, which is that orange sign kind of in the lower right corner there that has information about the artist, where they're from, and it also has a website and the QR code for people to take them to the public art tour so that they could, see what else is on the tour. And, the idea is that this pulls people all over downtown and that they happen to walk by, a restaurant or a shop, and, they have a good time spending money here in Frankfurt. Okay, I'm going to zip through these pretty quick because I think you probably are familiar with most of these. And I don't have everything in here, but I just wanted to show you we're not responsible for every mural that's happened downtown. We're responsible for most of the ones that have happened more recently. So I wanted to show you a few of those, and also, some of the sculptures that have been installed. Those are primarily on St. Clair, but there's one in what I call the Courthouse Plaza. I don't know if that's what it is, but that's what I call it. We're going to put one at Rick's White Light, and there was one on Main Street, but we had to move it to construction, so it's now on St. Clair also. But we would like to expand this year when we put new ones out and kind of move them around a little bit more too. The local business partners, each of the property owners for the murals have also made a significant contribution to pay the artists for those projects. So they also have some buy-in, which has been, really fantastic, and has enabled us to bring these artists literally from all over the world to Frankfurt to paint these murals. We have an existing partnership with Frankfurt Parks and Rec. Currently, there are 4 sculptures and 1 mural in Riverview Park. Again, we hope to trade those 4 sculptures out for new ones this year. This is the one at the Courthouse Plaza that I mentioned. So I talked earlier about mini murals. This is kind of our next phase and what we'd like to see happen this year. These are not big full wall murals, but they're kind of surprises. And like this one took advantage of kind of a crack in the wall there. Photo ops, they provide really fun, whimsical photo ops for people who are here visiting and hopefully share on social media. Thank you. They, you know, a lot of these might be maybe on the facade of a building. You know, we'll have to work with the city, with Eric Cockley on, you know, there are information guidelines in the ordinance about, you know, putting murals on the facades of buildings and all that. So we'll be working with Eric to make sure that we're following all the guidelines that have been established. You know, those metal circles are attached to the building, and you know, the artist made use of that existing, what might be sort of like, I don't know, a weird eyesore, like what is that thing? I don't know, but now it's a funny little guy with barbells. And again, kind of, they're like embellishments of architectural or functional elements that exist. Some of these, this is chalk drawing. This isn't even a permanent piece, same as this, with these pipes coming out of the building, like just making it something fun and whimsical. So we're really excited about finding an artist who could come and do several of these, you know, kind of throughout downtown. Even this, and you know, if you've been over on Lewis Street at the Capitol Gallery, Ellen Glasgow has one of these, I don't know what this thing is. I guess it keeps people from running off on the curb or something. But hers is painted with daffodils, you know, with that are about to blow away. It's just a sweet, you know, just a sweet thing to see. Another thing we're working on is sidewalk poetry. This is part of this is written into the Tiger grant and will be happening along 2nd Street corridor. That's not, we don't really have anything to do with that, but we want to tie into that and coordinate so that we could do some of that in a similar aesthetic that would promote local and regional poets, writers, to do sidewalk poetry also like in the Main Street and Broadway area, which is kind of more where we have been doing the work that we've been doing. And this is from a project in Louisville. If you guys haven't looked that up, check that out too. It's a really great program, and it really connects the community in a significant way. They worked with all very local artists from the neighborhoods around where these pieces went. Other things that we've talked about that, you know, might be up for future consideration would be light installations. You know, that's something that is very impermanent, which is kind of fun to think about and could change. This is another one. You know, colored light is fun and can be really effective, but it could also be images in light or text in light. This is actually an example that is installed at Chicago's Field Museum, which includes text that's legible, that's in light. So that's kind of a fun thing to think about where that could happen. So I think that's everything I have. That was like a lot of information in a short period of time, but I did put my email on here for you guys. And again, many people there know how to, I'm not going to say my phone number since this is going to be on Cable 10, but many of you have my phone number, or ask somebody and you can get it pretty easily. Are there any questions before I stop sharing my screen?
Melanie, I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you. And really during this pandemic, seeing progress of some of the murals and artwork downtown really was something fun for our family to do, to go on walks. And so we're really enjoying it, and I can't wait to see where this all goes. So thank you.
Thank you for saying that. It was a challenging year.
Yeah, I had, well, I absolutely love the arts and have loved what you guys have done. And I look forward to everything that you've had listed that we'll be adding to our community. I did have one question. I know that I've been on several conversations with the Second Street and the Bridge Street piece. So do we know exactly what that piece will be? Like, do we know what that's already going to be commissioned to be? Or is that an opportunity that, that our community can maybe have a voice on that piece? What are your thoughts on that?
Right, yeah, I like where you're going with that, Patricia. Nothing has been decided. We certainly have not selected or even begun the process to select that piece. I think there definitely should be some community input. We have received, and what our thinking is right now, we have input that was collected from the students at Second Street School, that sort of outlines thematically different ideas of things that they would like to see in the Second Street corridor design kind of as a whole. And we thought we might use that as a guide to write the call for art. And then once we get proposals back, then we would likely request some public input on the final selection of the piece. I think this is a great opportunity to be able to do that. So I will definitely be talking more with all of you about that process as we move closer to that, which will probably be here in the next few months. I'll be finalizing the call and may come to you guys again for any final input on that.
Great, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Melanie, I'll just say thank you for being our first guest for this commission. And I think it's the perfect way to start our new endeavor together. And thank you for all that Frank Arts is doing. We appreciate it on behalf of everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, I hope you have a great year and a great meeting tonight. And it's weird not seeing you guys in person, but hopefully at some point I'll get to see you guys in person and, at one of these meetings in real life, or just somewhere downtown or at the park. Anything, people, anything. I'll take anything. But thank you, guys. Appreciate the support. If you have any questions, let me know. So am I out now? Am I good
to go?
Step off? Okay. Thank you guys so much. Have a great meeting.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Next item up for discussion is the timeline and process for hiring the new city manager. Anyone like to start on this?
I'll take a crack at this.
Okay.
Mayor.
Commissioner Thompson.
The most important issue that we need to address with this new commission at this time is dealing with the uncertainty of our city manager position. I believe the fact that we are a city manager form of government requires us to assess that role. And as a new commission, we should do so thoroughly. I believe that we need to discuss the timeline and process that we're going to go through with regard to hiring a full-time permanent city manager, and would ask for discussion on that particular issue.
Any other discussion?
Sure. I'll add, if you don't mind, Mayor. I completely agree. I think this is something that we need to move forward with, definitely. This is something that we need to get off of our plates very soon, as we are a city manager ran government. So this is something that we need to move aggressively on. If this is something that we agree that we need to do nationwide search, we need to go ahead and put that out, get our staff working on that so we know what we're also looking for. But like, I agree with Kyle, we need to look over that job description and what we're asking for, what our qualifications are. and be able to make sure that when the HR, Kathy herself, puts out the call in nationwide or however far we want to stretch our call, then we need to make sure that that's up to date in per you, Mayor, as well as the Board of Commissions. I also feel that we need to stick to a stringent timeline, one that is aggressive, however, one that will be able to bring in a good number. But I also believe that anyone can apply for this, but I think we should stick with our contingent date of closing and making sure that we don't keep extending that out, because right now we truly need a city manager, one that is completely key of projects and things of that nature, so we can get Mr. Tommy back over into his director of management, where he is amazing and where he suits us now with this pandemic, and we can feel a little more safer in the distribution coming out for COVID vaccines. So I think that's something we do need to move on. I'm not sure if we want to discuss, I think how you put it on the agenda, I'm not sure, Laura, if we can discuss on what we're looking for, since it wasn't sent out to us. I think that we need to definitely have maybe a special call meeting to discuss what our qualifications are, if there's anything that we want to change, Mayor, in that particular job description before we think about pushing that out. Thank you. I'm finished. Thank you.
Can we bring this, can we direct this to be brought up in a voting meeting with regard to discussing the qualifications and things of that nature? Can we do all that? And I'm asking City Solicitor Ross if that's the proper thing to do at this point before we refer it to staff to begin this search. Should we do that at the next voting meeting and get those things handled that way?
Mayor, if I may.
You have the floor.
Thank you. Yes, that's perfectly appropriate, Commissioner, to ask us to provide that to you all so that you can have the past documents that we've worked with and some examples of how we proceeded with this in the past. I think that will prompt some questions and get you guys prepared to give staff direction. So we can certainly do that if you direct us to bring it to a voting meeting.
I would just say that we need to bring this to the soonest voting meeting that we have. I know we have one in 2 weeks. I think that's a good opportunity for us to at least have those discussions laid out and take some action on it.
Commissioner Waldridge.
And I know this may be a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I'd also like, I've been through this process of hiring a city manager once before with the city, and I would also like us to, just take in consideration of the process that we had last time, which was the staff, insert mayor, everyone doing the interview process. But we also had another group, which was a community. I know I brought that up for us to do in our last city commission meeting for the hiring of when we did hire a city manager. And that's just that we need a community committee as well, interviewing as well, so we can get their surveys on their options as well for the city.
You're muted.
Am I on mute?
You at the end there.
I don't know why it keeps muting me and unmuting me. Okay. But I think that that's something we need to continue to implement, especially in these larger positions of having a community committee to have a say with some strategic people on that as well, such as DFI, maybe even tourism, and a couple of business owners or developers in the community that would be working with our city manager as well.
I'd ask that we be able to submit those names of potential people to be on that committee to the mayor.
And that's what this meeting, that's what this discussion is for right now. What is that process going to be? Who is going to be on this committee? And what is the timeline? And I would remind the commissioners, if raise your hand if you want to speak, because that's the only way I know how, if you're going to speak. So, Commissioner May.
Thank you, Mayor Wilkerson. I think it's just going to be important through the process that we, when we talk about timelines, we consider the circumstances that we're in. I agree 100%. This is going to be one of the most important decisions that we make, and it's one that we need to make as soon as possible. But that being said, my concern is, making sure that we allow, the operation as it sits, with Mr. Russell taking the role on as, both. And I spoke with him this morning to ask him specifically how he felt about his current workload and everything. And he, assured me that, we have an amazing city staff and individuals at the emergency management helm, helping us get through this. My concern as far as, a timeline, which certainly we can discuss, at the next meeting as far as what we decide on that. We're looking at things such as, budget deadlines and getting those approved, giving us, ample time to review said budgets. My understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, is that June 31st is kind of our timeline for getting that out and approved. Typically May seems like working our way backwards. May would be time for us to evaluate that budget. Hopefully that we would see that by April 1st. And then that would give, anybody that comes in having to have that fall in their lap at the same time and playing catch up. It's just something that I want us to all consider and remember that, right now it feels like, and especially talking with Mr. Russell, that he feels comfortable leading us through that and continuing to get us through that, even having the interim position going. So while I do agree, and I do look forward to making sure that we find the right person, I just want to bear in mind what the next 6 months will look for us and for that city manager, whoever that person is, if it's still going. Thank you.
Commissioner Unger?
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. I would like to say I'm a little hesitant to rush on this. I have had a couple conversations with staff. Things seem to be running fairly smoothly. Thank you, Tommy, and everyone else. But I do know we need to get this conversation going. I do agree that we need to get moving on it, but I'm not ready to rush. I know that there's also a conversation in the community about, do we have the right form of government? Do we need to start possibly a committee to look at that? That's just what some citizens are telling me. So I just want to really think about this, really talk about it before we move too fast. Thank you.
I'll jump in here. So Mrs. Ross, what would be the next steps if we decided to form a committee or a search committee? What would be the next steps? Is that something we need to vote on in the next meeting or any future meeting, or I guess advise us on that?
Sure. You all can decide at any time tonight if you wished, or at a later date, to submit names for a committee to the mayor. It sounds like that was a suggestion. There's absolutely nothing that would prohibit you all from doing that. So if you wanted mayor to say that commissioners could submit names to you, that would certainly be fine. You could also give a direction to staff to begin compiling the documents you all would need. We can put it on for a potential action item. It doesn't mean you have to take any sort of action at the next voting meeting or any voting meeting coming up, so that you all could direct us in the manner that you want us to go about doing this, whether that's a nationwide search or some other method.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Mayor, if I may. A directive is completely appropriate at work sessions as well, if you want to direct staff to do something, just a procedural note.
Commissioner Thompson?
I would ask that we direct staff to provide the appropriate documents to us, historical and appropriate to us, so that we can begin looking at the necessary requirements and qualifications for a city manager search, whether that's on a regional or national level. We'll have that determination, but I want those documents to at least be presented to us. I also would ask that we move the. I would ask that we be able to provide names to you, the mayor, of individuals that we feel should be on that search committee with that public component as a part of it. And that, I don't know if that needs to be in the form of a motion at this time, or we can just discuss it and go from there.
I'll jump in. I can't do a motion on that right now. It's my understanding, but I think it is something we can do at the when we make it an action item. If there's no, Commissioner Waters.
Sorry, I agree with Kyle, and I think that it would just be good if you could, if, like you said, the commissioners throw a couple of names out there of community members for the community committee, get them to you maybe by the end of this week so you can have them and start collecting them, as we all have full-time jobs and we don't want to leave something on your plate at the last minute. But I think having those names to you by the end of this week would be conducive to continuing on for the next meeting. Therefore, hopefully we can have some of those names to be at the meeting where we can maybe go ahead and start creating that committee and be able to say, this is who we're voting on for that committee at the next meeting, for our committee to go ahead and be together. And I think that's what Kyle's wanting to move ahead. So I don't think it needs to be a motion tonight, but we can go ahead and set ourselves responsible to get you names by the end of the week. So you'll have a week to work with those names with Laura and them to get those together on the next agenda to be able to vote for that committee if everyone sees feasible in doing that.
Any other discussion on this? Well, if there's no objection, we'll ask the staff to proceed on this. Okay. Moving on to the next discussion item, the YMCA draft agreement. Everyone received a copy of that with the agenda. I'll open it up for discussion. Commissioner Waldridge.
So I read through it, and so on the first page, I'm not sure if everyone has that available, but in the first page, it on 1, 2, and 3, it sort of gives somewhat of a timeline. The YMCA must raise adequate funds for construction. The YMCA must begin construction by July 1, 2023. The YMCA must complete construction by December 31st to 2024. So it does give a timeline. And 2.5 is quite a bit of money coming from the city. However, when we look at number 1, Mayor, have you spoken with them to see what the timeline or the guidelines would be for them to be able to let us know if those funds have been raised for them to move forward to still meet the 2023 construction and the 2024 completion date?
I've had a brief discussion. We're going to have a more formal discussion this week, but I think that COVID has, of course, sidelined a lot of people, and that was what I was told. So I don't know the exact number, but I'll find out this week.
Thank you. Could I have a follow-up question?
Go ahead.
My other question is down at number 3. It doesn't have a page number, but number 3 in our requirements. So it gives us a 35% discount for our city employees, it looks like, and then after which the minimum continued would be a 25% discount. Mayor, I would just really look at that. 2.5 million for a 30,000 square foot building. I think that's something, hopefully maybe you, once this COVID thing happens and you're able to meet with them a little bit more, that we can maybe, along with the interim city manager and maybe even Laura, our solicitor, can discuss on making that a little bit more friendly for our city employees. I think 2.5 with those percentages is sort of low for me, especially when we only have, I think, right under 300 employees for the city. So just something maybe to look at. I don't know how much room we can play with, but if we could get those percentages a little higher for our city employees, that would be great. Thank you.
Commissioner Watridge. I didn't see any hands. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. I will say at the outset here that I have some issue with the allocation of the first things we're talking about is an allocation of $2.5 million. That is a lot of money. I do understand our history with the YMCA. I'm a product of YMCA activities, but I want some more assurances about not only the timelines, but what the facilities are going to hold and what they're going to be able to offer to our downtown residents and the rest of the residents of Frankfurt. I don't feel like we have gotten that yet. That maybe perhaps is another discussion that needs to be had between the YMCA and our commission. I have some issue with this. I feel that $2.5 million is a lot of money that can be spent in a lot of different directions. And I would like to have a lot more input before moving forward with that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Watridge.
I just wanted, and Kyle, I completely agree with you. As I think I've had a couple of conversations with you guys in 2020, and that, you know, making sure that we have what we need for Frankfurt and for a growing Frankfurt. We deserve a YMCA that has been built in Louisville, that is built in Lexington, and we need to make sure that we hold them accountable for that, for our growing community that we are looking forward to in the next 4, 5, 10 years. And so I completely agree with you, Kyle. But I did want to bring your attention, Mayor, to Exhibit A. Do you have this in front of you? And maybe Solicitor Laura, maybe here we go. Throughout the whole process in the paperwork, we are definitely holding them to 30,000 square feet. If they go under, they are then to let us know about the 30,000, that it's going to go under, and then we can then come back to the table and lower the 2.5 million is what I'm understanding. On Exhibit A, though, it reads that it's a 24,000 to 30,000 square foot plus or minus square foot community fitness center that would include a group exercise space, weightlifting area, a pool, cardio machines, childcare facilities, a gym, and a community meeting rooms and staff offices. Why throughout the whole paper was it 30,000 square feet definite, but when we get to Exhibit A, it says 24,000 to 30,000 plus or minus? Is there a way we can change that verbiage so it doesn't come up that it was written that it could be 24,000 to 30,000 plus or minus? Because we're expecting 30,000 and less. Or maybe you can explain why that is. Go ahead, sorry.
Mrs. Ross.
Like I'm talking a lot tonight, but this one, yes, I noticed that as well, Commissioner Waldridge. The good news is that the actual language of the agreement will govern over what is written in the exhibit. And we do have that 30,000, if that 30,000 moves, the square foot, if it moves, it will come to you all for a full evaluation of the scope of the project. But I can certainly speak with them about revising the exhibit.
Thank you. I just didn't want something to come back and bite us and have that 24,000. I like looking at the 30,000. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, is anyone else? Commissioner Unger.
I'm sort of sitting there with you guys. 2.5 million's a lot. And I just want to make sure that we get what we need. And not only do I think our city staff needs to, you know, get a great deal. I would love for our staff to be healthy and use the facility. But I also worry that maybe some in our community aren't able to afford maybe even children being in leagues or taking swim lessons. I know the YMCA works with people in the community, but I I really want to hear a little bit more about that. You know, it's a lot to invest if not everyone in the community is able to use the facility and their programs. So that's sort of where I'm sitting on that. I know the YMCA has done a lot of great things for our community. So I would like to just hear a little bit more, especially Mayor, after you have your meeting with the YMCA. Thank you.
Commissioner Thompson.
I guess this is for City Solicitor Ross. What is our obligation and responsibility as it stands right now? I know what the previous commission voted on, but what is our legal responsibility and obligation with regard to this donation as it stands right now?
Your obligation as a Board of Commissioners will not come into play until there is a signed document in place.
Okay.
Commissioner May.
Thank you, Mayor. Just kind of a point of clarification, if I may, just asking, so the $2.5 million is a one-time donation. They build the facility, they run it, they manage it, they take care of the infrastructure moving forward, they take care of the employees moving forward, they take care of the training of the employees, of all the programs, the implementation of all those things, and then we're done as an obligation from the city. Is that correct? Whereas my concern is that, you know, if we don't follow this route, what is the alternative? And I would have to assume that some studies have been done before. It's my understanding that one has, and I'll be honest, I haven't read that one yet. But I feel like if we're the $2.5 million one-time investment versus handling our own facility, I would assume is going to be a much greater financial commitment over the course of the years of that facility, because I'm going to assume we would want to build something for the long haul, something that's going to be there for, you know, a few decades, I would assume. You know, as far as not saying that during that time it wouldn't need to be updated, but that's just kind of where my concern lies with it, is thinking about, yeah, down the road, what the financial investment really becomes once we start handling that ourselves. And I'm, of course, open to exploring anything and everything, but that's where my concern lies right now. Thank you.
Commissioner Thompson.
I appreciate Commissioner May's feelings on this. If we were to propose any type of building that necessitated significant amount of money, I would worry about that. But I think one of the undercurrents that we're not talking about is if we build a facility that is city owned, we own that facility and we have an ownership interest in that facility, which, granted, there may be more financial requirements that would go into that, but there may be some financial benefit as well that could come to the city. So I think there's pros and cons either way. I'm also not opposed to listening to public-private partnerships. Many local governments have done so with athletic facilities and activity facilities. And I think that would be a way to go to lessen our ongoing costs and to lighten the burden on our parks department. But I think my general concern right now is we're being asked for a lot of money. We don't have a lot of guarantees with regard to that money, and we may not get as big a bang for our buck if we were to look at other avenues at this point. And if anything, I don't feel that this is something that we should rush into. I know Commissioner Unger mentioned that with the city manager issue. I really think this is something we need to pause and take our time on and make sure that we're allocating these funds properly.
Commissioner May.
My concern, you know, and I agree, 2.5 million is, you know, for me, 2.5 million that's a lot of money, you know. But what you know, the first thing I read here is at the February 3rd, 2020 voting meeting, you know, we've started this discussion. We're coming up on a year. So I want to make sure that we don't continue. I don't want to be here a year later from now. You know, if there's do people that are involved in these projects eventually start to lose interest or start to, I don't want to say get cold feet, but get discouraged about working with our community, within our city, to provide these resources. But no, I agree. I certainly need to understand exactly, you know, a little bit more, you know, where that money's going. My understanding is that'll take, well, in short, you know, I'll wait, and, you know, I know, Mayor, you've got a meeting with the group, and I'm excited to hear, you know, kind of where they're at, and what their thoughts are right now on this project. But it's just one that I think is immensely important, not just, you know, for our community, but even for our community's guests. And I would like to see that facility, you know, come to fruition. However, we need to make that work. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Unger.
I do have one question. Is the current facility downtown, is that 30,000 square feet? I just want to make sure that we're going to be getting at least what we currently have. I don't know if anyone knows that answer, but I thought I'd ask.
I don't know that. Staff? City Manager.
I can't answer the question. I think it's relatively close to that. I just wanted to kind of preface this document saying that when I met with the YMCA, for them to move forward with their fundraising, they were looking for a document to be able to allow to the public that they had support from the city of Frankfurt. And when we read the document, Ms. Ross and I went back and forth several times, that there wasn't, per their presentation to the last board and the 30,000 square feet, I think that Commissioner Waldridge referenced, I didn't see any clause in there that protected the city from them coming in to build a lesser facility than what we were expecting. Hence, we added the one term in E on one that just says if they reduce the size of the facility, that they would give us written notice, and then we would come back and review the entire scope of the project. And then if it met muster for everybody, you know, they might be able to come up with a facility at 27,000 square feet that we think is wonderful. But I did not see anything in there protected us from them doing less than what had been presented. And that's how we arrived at this document. It's this final document that the YMCA is asking for, so they can attempt to raise funds and meet the goals moving forward.
Thank you. Commissioner Waldridge.
I just want to add quickly, you know, Kelly, I appreciate what you said, definitely, but I just want to add that, you know, I support the YMCA. It's not that I'm against it, but 2.5 is a lot of money, even though it's 500,000 over the next 5 years. So we do have to be diligent when we're spending every dollar of that. And yes, once it goes to them, you know, they are the for-profit, basically, they are it. But on the other side, as I shared with most of you, you know, my idea was if we aren't going to get what we need for a growing community, and we have, like Lisa, Commissioner Unger had shared, the same size facility, I mean, it's doing us justice right now, but it's not comfortable for our community in the size that we are right now and giving us what we need. So I think we need to think bigger than what we have right now. And we need to hold them accountable to say, we want something larger than what we have right now to be conducive for our city and for a growing community. Giving 2.5 million, as I said, is a lot. I think even in a perspective of, you know, going to Sean in our Parks and Recreation of a master plan, you know, if they can't give us what our community deserves and needs, you know, maybe it is something that we put 2.5 million to Sean over in Parks, and maybe we do our own facility and things. And as Kelly said, there is a lot of responsibility, insurance, hiring more people and maintenance on the building and things of that nature that we would incur over years to come, or we can look into other areas that build the same facilities. That's just not the YMCA. But with the YMCA seated in our city limits, you know, it's really hard for us to gather any of those grants that we could get to go toward another facility because the YMCA is present. So I am in support. I just want the YMCA to really look at our community, really give us what we're not, what we are needing, and also don't send us down this rabbit hole to where we're going to get a $30,000 square foot building is what we're looking for, and then waiting to the last minute to cut us and say that you don't need our 2.5 million, and they continue to do something smaller. So I am a little uneasy about that. I agree with every single commissioner and the mayor. We need more facts. We need more facts to tell us what we're getting, and so we can feel a little bit more secure in a 2.5 million donation given to them right now when we're in the midst of a parks master plan at the moment. Thank you.
Commissioner May.
If I could just read this real quick to make sure, and you know, when you were talking about it, Tommy, number 1E, Frankfurt's donation amount is based on construction of a 30,000 square foot facility as initially presented by the YMCA when the original funding request was made. If at any time during the duration of this agreement, the YMCA elects to construct a facility which is less than 30,000 square feet, the YMCA shall provide written notice to Frankfurt of its building plans, including a representation of the interior and exterior amenities, and Frankfurt may choose to reduce its donation amount after reviewing the entire scope of the project. So does that alone in itself, that clause protects us from, at the last minute, quote, getting the rug put out from underneath of us, or them trying to, you know, anybody changing anything last minute. We have up until the day that the construction is approved and we're all systems go, we have the last minute to decide, no, this is not what we agreed to. Is that correct? Thank you.
Staff going to say anything? No? Commissioner Waters.
And yes, Kelly, you're exactly right. But I guess what I was trying to say, and maybe I did not come off the right way, was that I don't, in the timeline that we have, we're moving on to 2023 and 2024. So I don't want them to spend another year in thinking that they may do that and give us ample time to be able to change our money when we could use that time planning our own facility. Does that make sense? I guess that's sort of what I was saying. Like, I don't want them to use more time and then them say, you know what, we're going to have to build a smaller building, and then they're going to have to either not want our donation or lower our donation. But that could have been another 8 months to a year, you know, up until 2023, I think it was, that we could have been planning in our own parks, you know, that could push us back, even though it says that there could be a time it could be pushed back and we would know. But that's just my concern. But I completely understand what you're saying and completely agree.
I'll jump in here now, and I'll say the same to Commissioner May's point. I do think that we do have to look at the alternative because I do believe it is important to have a wellness facility, a fitness facility, whatever you want to call it, downtown. I do think that's going to help attract the type of people we want to live downtown. So I think it's crucial. It's almost a half to half. And you know, whether or not it's the YMCA or some private facility, or if we bring it in-house to parks, I think we have to have it. So we do need to look at the cost, and I can see where, you know, the outlay of $500,000 a year for 5 years, and then we're finished with it. But we also need to be mindful of what Commissioner Waters is saying, and we don't want to be here 3 years from now and not have anything there, and when we could have been doing something else. And to Commissioner Thompson's point, where we could have something where we own it, and you know, it's an asset on the city's books. Now, it could also be a liability as well. I understand that. So it is something that I'm going to talk with their group on Friday. Is this something that makes sense to invite them to come to a future meeting and make the presentation to the entire group so that we can ask these questions directly of them? Okay, Commissioner Thompson.
I would greatly appreciate if they would come discuss this with us as a group and be able to let us ask those questions and get a little bit more, some more guarantees on that. Thank you.
You're welcome. And one more thing on that, because of the COVID, the fundraising hasn't been there. I don't think a couple of more months isn't going to slow that part down. And they just need our commitment if we are gonna move forward with this. I guess sooner is better so that they can start the fundraising, because it could be a significant project. So we'll direct the staff to, if there's no objection, direct the staff to schedule that, or see if they're willing to, and I can ask them on Friday as well. So. Okay, any other discussion on the YMCA draft agreement? Okay. Next item up for discussion is the Parks Master Plan Steering Committee. And I can start on this one because we have a new commission. We had a commissioner and the mayor rotate off the previous board, and we have a couple of new commissioners that have now joined that committee, Commissioner Unger and Commissioner Thompson. And they were able to sit in on the meeting last week. And I don't know if there's anything you all want to update us on that transpired there.
Lisa, if you'd like to.
It was a pretty good meeting. I'm excited to be a part of it. So they basically worked us through some it's like brainstorming with the steering committee. So what would we like to see our parks, as far as slogan, what's most important to us. I really enjoyed the whole process. I know that you can view that online on the city Facebook page, and I would encourage everyone to do that. Also to go onto the Mind Mixer website that's a part of the Parks Master Plan, and please put your input on there. We're gonna have, I guess they did mention possibly having this plan by April, May. So I'm really excited to see where our parks can go. And Kyle, if there's anything you'd like to add.
Just to piggyback on what Commissioner Unger said, it's important for anybody who's interested to go look at that presentation that they had, but there were some very surprising answers in the brainstorming ideas that they had that were almost universal. That there was a lot of people that agreed on a lot of things that we should be looking towards. And I think that was surprising. And some of those things dealt with making sure we don't have duplicate services between city and county and things of that nature. And I think that could be an interesting conversation that we as the city could have with the county at this point, with regard to the fact that they are currently in a parks overhaul, just as we are, and that could make for some interesting conversations, because ultimately the citizens of both the city and the county will benefit from better parks. So I think that's a discussion that needs to be had, Mayor, between you and Judge Executive Wells and anybody else that is a member of county government. I just think it would be important for anybody who's interested in that, go look at that and look at the answers to those. You'll see some clear direction that I think members want to go with that. And Mayor, thank you for appointing me to that committee. I'm very excited to be on that.
Of course. Any other discussion? Commissioner Waldridge.
Yes, I would like to bring up the steering committee. Thank you to both for serving on that committee. A lot of exciting things on that committee to come, and I'm super excited that you guys are serving and have such ideas that you will bring to that committee as well. So that's exciting. One thing, Mayor, I wanted to bring up and bring to the commission and your notice is that, I know that I had submitted a couple of people to be on the steering committee and they completely got looked over. And I feel like we still have some holes maybe on this committee that maybe we should take a look at. A couple of people that I had thrown out there to be on this committee, to serve on this committee for several reasons. Like Jamal Jackson, he is with KSU. We do not have a KSU representation on that committee. And I had thrown out Jamal Jackson. Jamal Jackson is the head basketball coach of Kentucky State University. He also lives in the Collins Lane area. He has 2 small children, and he graduated from Kentucky State University, and his kids are involved in sports. And I just would like to maybe consider placing Jamal on that particular committee if anyone is opposed to represent a Kentucky State voice, because our students do use our parks, and I think it would be great to have him on that committee to help bring in a KSU voice, or even maybe adding also a student from the high schools, or a student from Kentucky State. These are going to be the people that also use these. And I just hate the fact that, we don't have someone, maybe a president from Frankfurt High or a president from, Western Hills or Franklin County, that could sit on this committee to be a youth voice as well. We want all voices to be heard. And also another person I had, Mayor, was Quentin Franklin. He is African-American male, has children, is involved in the parks, and he lives literally right around the corner from Dolly Graham. And I think if we can add someone that lives near the Dolly Graham, that uses the Dolly Graham, that loves Dolly Graham, I think that will help us be able to communicate with that community and allow them to have someone they can go to voice their opinions as well. And then that person can then bring us to the committee as well. I think that's just some things that maybe we think about. I don't know if, I don't think it has to be a motion to add them, but I would really like, maybe a student, Jamal Jackson from KSU and Quentin Franklin from the actual Dolly Graham area to be a voice for Dolly Graham in that community to be added to the committee, if you would not mind, or if the other commissioners wouldn't mind.
Points well taken, and I don't think there's anything we can act on tonight, but I do need to, I'll have to ask Mrs. Ross here about the Parks Master Plan Steering Committee, what the protocols are to add someone to that, if it's a voting issue or not, or if it's something that the mayor can do at their discretion. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. I believe that the way we set it up with the previous Board of Commissioners was to have members of the Board of Commissioners submit names, and the mayor then made those appointments to the committee. So I do believe it's a mayor appointment, but with the Board of Commissioners being free to submit names of people they thought should be considered.
Okay. We will consider them, and nothing we can do tonight, but absolutely.
Thank
Any
you.
other
And if you need further information, Mayor, please let me know on those names.
I shall. Commissioner May.
Thank you, Mayor. I did just want to acknowledge, I also had a gentleman reach out. I'm not sure if everyone got that email from Mr. Chuck Javidan, also expressing interest in fulfilling that role. He has children that are in the in the school system here, and same youth, and expressed a lot of interest in being a part of the conversation of being progressive in our Parks Department and moving things, kind of forward. And just wanted to make sure that you're aware that he was expressing interest as well. And if you do not have that email, I'd be happy to get you his contact information so you can discuss whatever you'd like.
I did get that this afternoon, Commissioner May, and I think that may be out of order. I think that is talking about the Parks Board, not the Parks Master Plan Steering Committee. I think there's a difference on that.
You're right.
I will consider that as well when there is a vacancy there, but not talking about that one tonight, but I did get it. We'll consider. Any other discussion about the Parks Master Plan Steering Committee?
I would just like to say, I think Patricia's idea is great. I think we do need to see some age difference on that steering committee, as well as just, different people in the community. So I'm right there with you, Patricia.
Thank you,
Thank
Lisa.
you.
Or Commissioner Unger, I'm sorry.
Let's keep it formal. Any other discussion on this, on the Parks Master Plan Steering Committee? All right, well done. Now we'll move on to the creation of the Director of Strategic Initiatives. And I'll open it up for discussion, but I can begin if you would like. Okay, this is something that I have added. In my experience, I do think that, well, Frankfurt, just big picture, stepping back, Frankfurt is at a critical point, a transformational point, and there are a lot of projects happening right now, and there are a lot of projects that could be happening. And I felt that we may have an opportunity here to bring someone on staff or as a contract employee to add manpower, womanpower, so to speak, to help get some of these initiatives off the ground. And so I'd like to open that up for discussion. I know it's in the middle of a pandemic, and this is our very first meeting, and we have run the risk of overshooting here. However, I think that the time to plan is now. Eventually, we will be past the pandemic, and we need to set the stage here to make sure that Frankfurt comes out of this stronger than ever and stronger than surrounding communities. So I do think that we have an opportunity here to swing for the fences, so to speak, and beef up our capacity, if you will. So I'd be happy to discuss that further, but I'll open it up for others as well. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. I read over the document that you sent to us related to your thoughts on this particular position. It was well thought out. I am a huge fan of this idea. I am a big supporter of this. One of the things that I ran on and I want to make sure we keep focus on is economic development. We desperately need that in Frankfurt. I believe having someone on staff or a contract employee, or however we want to label that, having someone that's accountable to us is crucially important to make sure our initiatives are followed through on. And I believe this is a great first step in doing that. I've talked to several people who are in the economic development fields. They have provided me with lots of information, but this is a great first step. And I think that if we are truly interested in getting past the economic downturn due to the pandemic and other financial issues, that this is a great move by the commission. I would ask that we refer staff to begin drafting a job description for this based upon your input that you laid out for us, and then bring this to a voting meeting when that information is available to all of us. Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome, Commissioner Waldridge.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, first and foremost, I don't want to reiterate what Kyle said, but I think it's a fabulous idea. I know, I appreciate you taking my call when I had questions, when it was very vague on the agenda. I just wanted a little bit more to see where you're thinking, where your mindset was at. So I do appreciate you taking my call and being able to have a discussion on what this agenda item was. I supported 110%, as you know. I think you and I, we've had several conversations in regards to, you know, my concern in some of the projects like the TIF project, things of that nature. And, you know, I let you know that I think there needs to be a Chuck Knowles for every event or every project that we have, because Chuck Knowles is so detailed oriented and he does really well with the Tiger grant. So I think this position would actually encompass all of that. You know, I asked you to, I asked for, I guess, a brief paragraph, and you sent me a whole page that was excellent. Like Kyle said, it was very detailed oriented. It has your thoughts on paper and which way to go. I think this would be great for the community. I agree. I think this could be a contract position, but I don't want us to lose sight also that if this does go in the right direction for us, that maybe we could switch that over to be a full-time position. Because if this position goes in the way that we look and start taking things off of our plates, you know, once we get that inner city, you know, done, you know, we want to take that and we want to stretch our footprint out for our whole entire city. So that person would still probably need, you know, we need them for relationships, for to talk with those CEOs, those VPs, those legislators, you know, the Mitch McConnells, the bars. You know, we need people who have those connections to get in those higher tops to help support Frankfurt. And now more than ever, you know, with the switching of the guard of majority leader, you know, that it worries me. You know, Mitch McConnell has brought in money and transportation funds for us. And now, you know, will that money still come to Kentucky, you know, now that he's out of that position for those, or will it go to New York? You know, we don't know. And so that does scare me in moving forward in some things, but I think you're headed in the right direction with this. I support you, whether you want to make this a full-time position now or a contract, but just know if we do decide contract, I think that it could be an option of full-time later on. But I think this is what we need. I love the fact that you have them reporting to the Board of Commissions. So we know that we want to get this low-hanging fruit done. There's things, master plan, we haven't been working on that. That's something we need to get some things done. Our community wants to see deliverables, and I think this is the first step to doing that. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Waters. Commissioner Unger.
I'm right there with everybody. This was a great idea. I think that having someone on staff, whether contract or full-time position, that can be that liaison for projects, to work with KCDC, to work with DFI, to really focus on that downtown master plan, plus other plans. You know, Walk Bike Frankfurt has a great plan to work on connectivity for the city. So there's many projects that I know, you know, someone like a city manager can't work on all these, and you know, there's a lot going on. So I like the idea that we can have one person that could help us nail down a grocery store for our downtown or for 2nd Street, South Frankfurt, and just really focus on these projects and bringing business in and executing plans. So thank you, Mayor Wilkerson, for bringing this up, and I'm ready to see where it can go. So thank you.
Any other discussion? And I will say some of this, well, I was thinking contract position because we want to see how it goes, and we don't want to burden, you know, we don't want pension obligations or healthcare expenses if we don't have to. However, if it does, if everything is going well, of course, we would consider going forward. But otherwise, right now, I do think that these next couple of years, our term, are going to be critical. And I think it makes sense to do as much as we can and try to move the needle. Without further objection, we'll direct staff to start working on a job description, and we can put that on a future agenda. Next item up for discussion is creation of a remote worker relocation incentive package. Commissioner Waters.
Mayor, I'm sorry, just one more. I know that you said that they could start working on the job description, and I don't want to rush anything by all means, but is there any way that we could have that ready in 2 weeks, maybe to look at the first draft? And I only say that because if we can get that person hired, we may be able to hire that person quicker than a city manager, and that person can really help out with the interim city manager and our staff, and that would be somebody we could be able to lean on in that time. So the quicker we could get this position maybe in the right direction, that may make us feel a little bit more comfortable in trying to, you know, hire the right city manager.
Good point. And I think I'll leave that to staff. I'm careful not to overstep on this first meeting and overcommit them, but good point. Okay. We'll now move on to the creation of the remote worker relocation incentive program. That's a long phrase, but if anybody wants to open up discussion on that, or I can start. Well, this is something that I do think right now, of course, the pandemic has made it all too clear that the future of work has changed, and now more people will be working remotely. And again, the time to plan for the future is right now. We need to go along with other communities nationwide who have already set up a similar program to try to recruit those people who can now live anywhere and do their jobs. They work for any company in any state, but they can live anywhere they want. So Frankfurt, I think, needs to join the other cities, and it's a growing list every month. You hear about another city that's offering an incentive package to try to get people to come to their community. I think we have to get in that game and make ourselves known as a community that is open to new residents. So that's the main point of this discussion. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is a great idea. I'm the guy who always worries about money. I obviously am concerned about finances and making it happen, but I think it's a great idea. It's a small investment to get people in here who are going to be eating at our restaurants and paying taxes and doing all the things that we need them to do to maybe help recover some of the finances we're going to lose out on over the next 2 or 3 quarters. So I think it's important that we do something like this. Commissioner Unger earlier in the week had sent out an email with a story related to this, and then that story led me down a rabbit hole, as you can do every once in a while when you're researching these things. And it's very common. It's common in very small towns all the way up through very large cities like San Francisco. So it's a program that is used throughout the country, using all different sizes of cities. And I think we are the perfect city that needs to find recruitment tools to bring people here. We can recruit all we want, but we still need to work on the amenities. And I think that goes back to our parks discussion and our schools talks and everything else that we have going on. All those things are great, but people are going to move here not just for a $5,000 payment to them. They want to have amenities that them and their families can be proud of. So I think these have to go hand in hand, and it can't be, this isn't going to be our home run here. This is just part and parcel of a bigger plan that we need to put together. And I think it's a great idea. I think we need to set realistic goals of how much we want to spend. And when it's gone, it's gone. But we need to lay out some pretty stringent guidelines of who could apply and what we're looking for from those applications. And then once we get those, maybe we do end up with some great folks that are willing to move here. And that's what ultimately we want to happen. So I think it's a great plan. I thank you for bringing it up. I thank Commissioner Unger for sending me that information and taking up another hour of my time as I did more research from it. So I do appreciate it, but I think it's something that we absolutely need to look into. And thank you, Mayor.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Unger.
Well, I think you know where I stand. I do think it's a great idea. Since I heard you talk about this in your campaign, I started, Googling and checking out different areas that do this. So I really do like the idea of, small investments in people and trying to, bring them to Frankfurt, and we'll get that money back in other ways. So I think it's a great idea. And it does sort of trickle into other issues that we do have. You know, there's a lack of housing, and also affordable housing. So, you know, that's a whole nother discussion. But, you know, how can we begin to address some of those issues, and also encouraging people to come and move here. So, yeah, I'm excited to move this conversation forward and see who we can get to move to Frankfurt.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Waldridge?
I just want to verbally say that, yes, I am in support of it. I know that we have spoken about this. This came up in our 2019 meeting, and then COVID happened. So it did not come back up in 2020, but I think it's something that we should look into deeply. I also think, I agree with Commissioner Unger. You know, we need amenities, as well as Kyle said, we need amenities for people to want to relocate here. People are relocating to beaches. People are relocating to cities that have amenities that, you know, allow them to do more things while they're working from home. And so we have to get the ball moving and getting parcel B off the ground. We've got, you know, getting things down there, getting our buildings filled downtown so that when they relocate here, we're giving them something. Work with our school systems and improving that and things. Now we have 2, you know, turf fields, and working on more in our community to be able to make us that want to relocation city. So we don't want to get the cart before the horse, but I think it's something, like you said, in time we can continue to look over and see what that looks like. But I think yeah, we're going to have more amenities and make Frankfurt look a little bit more appeasing as well. But I agree with also Mayor and Kyle. They're you know, setting a budget every year, maybe for a certain amount. Once it's gone, and then maybe reopen that again for the next year. So I love the idea. I think it's something we can continue moving forward on. So thank you for bringing it to the commission.
And I will add on that, I view it similar to the downtown reinvestment grant. You know, we set aside a certain amount of funds, and if they're not used, they're not used. And if anything, we get some PR out of it. And obviously we want people to take advantage of this, and we need to sell ourselves. And it just gives us the opportunity to maybe get in front of some workers that we may not have otherwise done so. So I think I think these days we have to do it. If we're not doing it, we're not trying. And also to Commissioner Waldridge's point on the we have to have amenities for these people. And it's a chicken and egg thing where we also need to create the demand from the bottom up, and hopefully once we can attract the right type of workers and people to live here, and incomes and education backgrounds, then that might attract the types of businesses that we want to serve those people. So I think we have to try it. Any other discussion? Okay, with no objection, we'll direct staff to work on a proposal, and we can come up with a dollar amount and work with other. I should point out, we should also consider it's not just about a dollar amount, but it's also a package of other things that we can offer, and it could be educational opportunities. It could be working with other entities in town that will benefit from new residents. Okay, we're through the discussion items. We'll move on to the action items. And first up is Mayor Pro Tem. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would nominate Patricia Waldridge to be our Mayor Pro Tem for the next 2 years.
Do we have a motion?
Yes, that would be, I would make that in the form of a motion.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Second, Commissioner Unger. Okay. Any discussion?
I would just like to say, as a top vote getter and from one woman to another, I fully support this decision.
Okay. So it is moved and seconded that we nominate Commissioner Waldridge to continue to be Mayor Pro Tem of Frankfurt. Any discussion?
Call the question, Mayor.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Okay, motion is adopted. Congratulations, Commissioner. Mayor Pro Tem Waldridge. Go ahead. You have the floor, Ms. Waldridge.
I just wanted to say thank you. I truly appreciate all of you. My blood pressure is not even up in this meeting yet. Can you believe that? So I look so forward to working with you guys over the next 2 years. I know I've been in 2 years, but like I've told and shared with all of you guys, we're still all learning. I plan on being the best mayor pro tem and sitting commissioner that I can be for each of you and for the mayor. We are here to work together as a team and get some things done. And I'm glad that not only the community felt that, they vote of confidence in me and my leadership for the past 2 years and to lead it again in 2 more years, but I also appreciate you guys and Kyle making that motion, Lisa seconding it, and all saying aye to Kelly May and the mayor. So I appreciate you guys, and I won't let you down. It's time we move forward, and I'm glad to have everyone aboard. I'm super excited to be under the leadership of a new mayor who has shown just strides in this first agenda and strides in being able to communicate with us all and being open to listening, even though we may disagree on some things. We agree to disagree, but as well, he listens. And so I look forward to working with all of you. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out at any time. But thank you to the community, and I look forward to serving the next 2 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll remember all those words. No. Okay, moving on to the next action item, amending the agenda setting to include the Board of Commissioners input. And everyone got a copy of the attachment on this. Any discussion? Commissioner Waters.
Mayor, thank you so much for, just really taking my consideration in some of these changes into consideration. We are voted by our community to be a voice, and I appreciate you seeing that, we need to be able to speak to you and put some things on the agenda, definitely before a meeting. I know F says that we can do it during, but I think being able to get something to you, I know I stated that maybe from now on, the expectation is giving something to you maybe Wednesday or before, whatever that deadline would be, of what we want on the agenda and some information. So that gives you ample time to communicate with us on what that is and an understanding if you want to put that on the agenda. Because I think it's just hard for staff to be able to communicate on things that we put on the agenda at the last minute or even during a meeting. So thank you for taking this into consideration, meeting with Solicitor Laura. Thank you, Laura, for doing this. But I think this helps us be able to uphold our office and the vote of confidence that our community has given each and every one of us as city commissioners and mayor. So thank you.
Any other discussion? Do we have a motion? Well, I'll just say quickly, this is what, for those that don't know, what we're doing is adding the ability for the Board of Commissioners, for 3 commissioners to add something to the agenda. If they do so, then it will be on the agenda. Otherwise, mayor has the final approval of the agenda.
I would
Mayor,
move. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Mayor, I move that we accept as a motion. Do I need to read C and F for the correction, Laura? Okay, so just say that I would like to move that we accept the document as written.
I would second that.
Okay, so it is moved and seconded that we adopt the order as written to amend the agenda setting to include the Board of Commissioners input. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed say no. Okay, motion carries. All right, moving on to the next action item, the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. And with the election, Commissioner Wisman rotated off, and we need to appoint a new representative on the committee. I'll open it up for discussion. Commissioner Unger.
Mayor Wilkerson, I would actually like to nominate you. I think you're guaranteed 4 years with us, and if we truly, want you to lead this community, I think you need to be a part of this comprehensive plan steering committee. I think your vision for Frankfurt will just make a great impact, and so I'd like to see you on there.
Commissioner Waters.
I as well, I think I agree with Lisa. I've given it some thought, and I really think that you would be great on this committee. And as you and I spoke, I want to be a supportive mayor pro temp. And I think you being a new mayor to this, I think you do need to be in on that conversation. I'd like to sit in on some of those meetings as well, as long as there wasn't a quorum. But if you were not to attend a meeting or have something, please, I'd love to be your backup and be your partner in that particular meeting to make sure that we hear what we need to hear and that we continue on with this committee and that we're always represented on this committee. So I gave some thought. I know you and I spoke about this in our concerns with this committee and what this committee means for the future of Frankfurt. I completely agree with Commissioner Unger. You're here 4 years, we're here too. And no matter how long this committee continues to meet and move forward, it does need your leadership on it. And I'd like to just sit in, if possible, to be your rotation out if you happen to miss a meeting and be able to sit in on some of those meetings if so. But I would agree. Was that a motion, Commissioner Unger? I'm sorry.
Sure, I'll make the motion to Lane on.
Well, I will second. I will second that.
Great.
Okay, any debate on that? If no debate, so the motion is to nominate Mayor Lane Wilkerson to be on the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving right along here. Next item up for action is the application of assistance to firefighters grant. And I will allow staff to enlighten us on this. Mr. Russell.
I believe Chief Briscoe's on to explain that, Mayor.
Great. I don't see everyone.
Yes, I am here. I had a little computer issue.
Hi, Chief.
How are y'all tonight?
Great.
I'll be quick. This is the annual Assistance to Firefighters Grant. They just made the notice of funding just this month. I believe it goes through the end of the month, first part of March, and we're wanting permission to apply for 5 power lift stretchers and subsequent mounting equipment in the amount of $280,000. There is a 10% match if selected for the grant, but I do not believe that they will make grant selections until after we go through budget, the 2022 budget. So I believe it will be a contingency request in that amount.
Any discussion? So we're potentially at 28,000 on this if everything goes up, but we get 280.
Yes, the total project would be 280. We would have to fund 28,000 of it.
Okay. It sounds reasonable to me. Any discussion? Okay. We have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Any second?
Second. If I
Right. Okay, we have a motion. It's moved and seconded to approve the application of assistance to the firefighters grant. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay. Thank you, Chief Briscoe. Hopefully we get it. Okay, well, that's all the action items and all of the agenda items. this point, we discussed the tentative agenda for the next meeting, or just got a motion to adjourn? This is a question for Solicitor Ross. So go ahead, Commissioner Watridge.
Oh, and I'm sure, I know that we're discussing agenda items for the next, but just going from our meeting tonight, I would like to, if possible, if given the information that you receive, if we can go ahead and maybe make that park board appointment, maybe at our voting meeting. There is an opening, but maybe you can look over those. It'll give more people time also to send in if they would like to send in as well. And also for you to take a moment and maybe decide by next meeting if we can add some of those park committee additions in place, if we can put that on there. And if so, then you would appoint those at that meeting so they don't miss any more. If we do decide to add more people, that they don't miss any more meetings so they can get in on those surveys. So that's my two right now, but I'll also follow up in an email, as I don't, want you to have to go all the way back and listen to this meeting again. So.
Are you sure? Commissioner Thompson?
I believe that we need to have an action item related to the status of the city manager. Who will either remain or fill that interim status, what a timeline is going to look like for that. And I think we need to have that discussion and probably need to go into have a closed session related to that.
Any other items for the next agenda? Commissioner Watridge?
Yes, the strategic initiative, I think, if possible, I know that you don't want to bombard, as our first meeting staff, but if we could have somewhat of a draft for us to look at over that position, I think that would be good, given that, it's going to take us a little while to get a city manager, but if we can get that position filled quicker, it will help us and feel more secure about it, interim city manager and this person helping out with that over projects and things. So I think that definitely should be on there for us to maybe discuss that position or have a first draft of that position. I apologize, Mayor.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Commissioner Watridge?
Okay, I hate my mute button tonight. But I know that you and I spoke, Mayor, in regards to the small grants that were handed out with the deadline of December 31st. Maybe Ms. Hall could give us an update on that at the next meeting on how that went throughout the December 31st, as well as if there is any money left over. And I would like that to be put on the agenda for us to discuss that. If that's something that we would like to add more money in that and do another round, or just for us to discuss where we're at with that, if that's possible. Thank you.
I was going to follow up on that. COVID-19, anything that we can do on that for the voting meeting in January. Hopefully we can help enhance what's already been given. So we'll come up with a plan on that. Any others? No. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Move to and seconded to adjourn. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposed? All right. Good job. See you next time. Thank you all.
Great meeting, guys.
Stop.